Welcome everyone here with this brief webinar about global OT support services, also referred to sometimes as always on manufacturing. What's that all about? Well, we will see in the next pretty much 20 minutes what that entails. But before we do that, let me introduce myself real quick. So my name is Robert Ottenhoff. I currently fulfill the role of Director of Business Development at ATS Global, responsible for North America, so focusing on the US, Canada, and also Mexico at the moment. But enough about myself. Let's move forward here with something about ATS, because who is ATS and what do we do apart from support? And actually, how does that fit into our business activities here? Just take a minute. So basically at ATS, there's 5 different business activities. First one's ATS Consulting. So that's really our consultants every day worldwide, work with our clients to get them going with their digitalization journey, right? So that is really early stage engagement, helping with business assessment, building business cases, and also doing product selection from a very independent business-oriented standpoint. Of course, ATS Projects performs all our MES and controls and simulation PLM projects on a daily basis, supported by the ATS Software Development Center of Excellence, who bridges the gap between standard out of the box and specific client requirements. Then we have ATS Training and Workshops, which we also like to refer to as ATS Academy. Our ATS Academy really provides a wide range of different trainings, from PLC programming and troubleshooting through C# programming and other higher level programming languages, as well as database programming, but also Lean Six Sigma, etc. So really a wide range, variety of topics that the ATS Academy is able to teach. And last but not least, the topic of today is around ATS support services, or global support services 24/7, 365 days a year, sometimes even 366 days a year. And we do that in order to support the always on manufacturing. And we do that together, obviously, with our ecosystem. So ATS is the independent solution provider, and we work together with lots of very well-known OEMs, some of the well-known logos you see on the bottom of the screen right now, but you also can see plus many more. This is just a subset of partners that everyone most likely will recognize there. So that's how that fits in. So the support services is 1 out of 5 main business activities within ATS. And now, why do we do that actually? There's several different reasons for that. If we look at the, let's say, the landscape and the environment that we live in nowadays, yeah, there is a set of essential requirements actually from manufacturers that they have for, well, their processes, but also the registration and support of the processes through digital tools and solutions. And this is really not something specific to a certain industry. This can be seen cross industry, where manufacturers really have the requirement to be able to act at high speed, right? And what they want to do, why they want to do that, is because they have to reduce the time to market, right? There's faster changing consumer demands, and manufacturers just have to be able to launch new products faster, right? So new product introduction, very important. Also flexibility, right? But again, the consumers, they nowadays very much like individualized products, which is great for them, but from a manufacturing standpoint adds complexity, of course. So how do we actually handle that? How do we want to make sure that we can still offer what our consumers are asking us to do? So that we have to be very flexible in our process, and with our systems have to support that as well. Quality, very important, maybe even the most important one, because as long as we live good quality, then we will most likely have customers and have new customers, and have, let's say, customers that will basically be loyal. But if there is a moment a small lapse in the quality is not at the level that our customers are used to, they immediately start looking elsewhere for alternatives. We have to avoid that, of course. So having high quality is very, very important, and having the right tools from a digital standpoint to support you with that is pretty much key nowadays. And last but not least, obviously also the efficiency. We don't necessarily want to add resources to do more. We actually want to be able to do more with the same amount of resources, the same amount of equipment, people, but also materials, right? So in order to do that, we have to increase our efficiency to do more, to produce more at a good quality with the same amount of resources. And then last but not least, we have security as the bottom line underneath there, because we all know all the news that we see every week in the papers and on TV about security breaches, data leaks, etc. We can't have that, of course, but this is really important, and this is something that to keep up with. And to keep up with that, can actually be quite tricky, because there will always be people out there that will try to hack into our systems, steal our proprietary data, and yeah, get to know secrets that are actually company secrets, trade secrets that we want to keep in-house. So it's something that, yeah, is obviously is non-stop, right? It's 24/7 or always on. So that's really important to focus on as well. If we then take a look at the current manufacturing OT support options that are out there, then it turns out that they oftentimes do something, but are not fully adequate and are not a right fit for purpose, right? And the options that we have nowadays are, well, first of all, it's an option to use an IT support partner. However, that would talk about an IT support partner trying to support OT systems. It's just not a natural match. It's not just not, let's say, their expertise. They're very good at what they do, but they focus on the IT side. OT, as we all know, is a totally different environment, which requires a specific skill set, right? They're less familiar with that. And also, if you think about it from a global standpoint and really provide a 24/7 support, that always turns out to be rather limited. And that's not good, because then we cannot guarantee the always on. The other option would be to rely on the OT OEM support. So basically the original equipment manufacturer of, let's say, the operational technology like PLCs and controls and controls. But they tend to be, unfortunately, relatively slow, simply because they have so much that they have to tend to. So yes, they definitely have a support organization, but they're slow, very limited to just only their specific controls and equipment, but no really support for applications that are built on top of that OT framework. Whereas what we're looking for nowadays is to have a holistic view and one support partner that can do both the OEM equipment as well as the applications that run on there. And again, it's limited in terms of support, whether it's global or whether they provide 24/7 around the clock. Oftentimes it's just during business hours, which is solves part of it, but again, does not go to that always on that we're looking for, right? Always available. And then you can also build your own in-house IT/OT support team. It is definitely possible, and they can definitely help to a certain extent. Moreover, it's actually helpful to have also an in-house organization, but we view that typically as an extension, or the other way around. The ATS Global Support Services is an extension of the in-house support team and really provides that in-depth, around-the-clock support, because even the in-house team also obviously has their time off and their breaks and their own shifts. Plus, this turns out to be pretty expensive if you want to staff up, keep these people trained, and it's difficult to find the right people for that, of course. It's always been difficult. It's even more difficult nowadays. So there's a lot of challenges with that, and that makes that these current options are or can be quite inadequate. And so what are we doing then as ATS, right, to try and help out, or let's say manufacturing partners? Well, we provide global 24/7 OT support services, very responsive. It's worldwide 24/7. So again, we're always on, right? And regardless, you can look at the clock right now, see what time is it in a day, wherever you are. But you never have to ask the question, do you think that we can reach them? No, or chat is never closed, or email and phone lines, they're never closed, right? You'll never reach an answering machines that said our business hours are from 8 to 5 or anything like that. It's always there. So very responsive, very personalized. It's very tailored managed service for specifically for manufacturing systems. Um, and the people that are part of the support organization on the ATS side, I mean, they're true specialists, right? So they not only support the PLC and the controls, but pretty much the entire, if you think about ISA 95 stack, for example, right now, all the way from your ERP, right, on level 4 through the MES and MOM layer, manufacturing operations management, but even down into the PLCs, the distributed control systems, the HMI, SCADA, up to the sensors connected to the actual process. It's plug and play, really. We integrate seamlessly with the existing support services landscape, whether that's an internal support. We're very much used to work with an internal support desk that is kind of the gateway for the tickets that then are passed on to us, and then we take ownership of that. And even, let's say, from an investment standpoint, it's very flexible. There's lots of options there. There's the two that are most used are pay by the month, so really time-based, or really effort-based, pay by the ticket. But at the end of the day, it's a very much tailored program that yeah, really answers basically the questions that manufacturers are asking. So there's definitely not a one size fits all. Um, we don't do that. So real quick facts. I mean, why would you even consider ATS as a global support partner? We currently have over 300 global SLA customers. In the last year, 2021, our support that processed and addressed over 15,000 different incidents. So you can do the quick math. That's a good number of incidents um, every day of the year, regardless whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, or doesn't matter, or which time, right? Over 98% SLA adherence. SLA obviously service level agreement. So we agree on a certain level of service with our customers, and then we measure ourselves as well, because we want to make sure that we adhere to whatever we've agreed on. In terms of response time, right? The first time that you call us with a ticket, with an incident, we create a ticket, and we've agreed on a certain response time. So within the response time, after you've put in the ticket, we'll have to respond and start working on the incident, right? So you can make sure that it's really reliable, but also from a resolution standpoint. So it's even from a resolution standpoint, we've also agreed on that in the SLA, right? So if there is a ticket, okay, I mean, things can happen, right? So every now and then a ticket might be created, but then it's not like, okay, that's just sitting around there lingering and picked up at some point. No, there is a specific resolution time as part of the SLA as well. So both for the response and the resolution, we're proud to say that we're over 98% adherence. So um, yes, that's actually very good. And then the other thing, very important for a global support desk, is to be multilingual, right? So currently we support over 15 languages, and we're always happy to add new languages. We really always look forward to that. It's really an enrichment to the team. But that can be also one of the requirements of our clients. If they have a particular language, local language, where typically we work with people that work, let's say, on a manufacturing floor that not necessarily always have command of English language, or not good enough, or they don't feel comfortable speaking in English while there is actually already a crisis situation going on the shop floor that needs to be resolved right away. They prefer to speak the local language. We support it as well. Very important. So really flexible and adapt to requirements of our clients there. What's the difference then? Well, first of all, we've been in business over 35 years, so yeah, it's really based on all those years of knowledge of service delivery and being in the field, right, and understand what the requirements of manufacturers are, not only from an implementation standpoint, but what's after that, right? So once the project is closed and the system is in use, we better make sure that the system can be used, let's say, at maximized uptime, right? Um, Further, we follow a preventative approach, and that means that we focus on avoiding incidents to happen in the first place, right? Because if we can do that, then of course we can maximize the uptime here, and that's so important because that will actually contribute to the efficiency and the equipment utilization, resource utilization, instead of machines being down all the time or systems being down all the time. People sitting around can't do anything. That's not very efficient. So, and we go about it in a preventative approach. So that's our preventative maintenance offering. We have also access to the product development teams of the software providers, the software vendors. Some of them we saw already a couple of minutes ago on one of the previous slides, right? So the partners that we work with. So we have very strong partnerships, right? And a lot of people that know each other even on a personal level, and so lines are short. We're deep into the other organizations, so we have very good contact with these software providers. So it's also easy and quick for us. We know basically the route to the quickest support, so to say. It's a managed service approach, so we advise manufacturers also on their capital IT and OT investments, such that they can really make, let's say, a very well informed and educated decision on that, because those investments, as you all know, they're not small. So we better have as much advice as possible. We work with a state-of-the-art infrastructure as well as an ITSM solution, and we're also present in over 25 countries, and that enables us to use the follow the sun approach. And how that looks like, that is actually interesting here. So let's take a look at the world map real quick. So follow the sun approach, how does that work then for 24/7 coverage? Well, our global service desk is actually located in the Czech Republic. So that's, let's say, the global service desk of ATS. But then obviously that is Central European time. So how do we go about, let's say, before hours when the Asian world's already started working, or after hours when the people in the US, Mexico, and South America are still really busy? Well, first of all, there is no before or after hours. The service desk is staffed by ATS people, by ATS personnel, 24/7 every day of the year. But then for the actual support, right, to provide the support, there are several service hubs, as we like to call them. You can see there is one in Spain that provides it for the European region. There is also one in Mexico as a service hub that provides that for the US, well, actually North and South America, right? And then also even India and Malaysia, there's our two other service hubs. So, and having these service hubs in, say, dedicated time zones actually allows us to have that follow the sun coverage. So here you can really see that the support people are very much spread out, even beyond the service hubs. And that's also in part due to the fact that we provide on-site support services as well. So global support, local presence, and that's really important. So that's kind of how that works and how that continues to work from a geographical standpoint. We talk about the support structure, right? So how do we go about that? With single point of contact, and the first contact is always the service desk. You will call or email. You will have our customers have their dedicated email address. If they send information to that will create a ticket in our system. And but you can also call. You can also go online to the customer portal and just chat with us. And but either way, which you use, you will reach up at the service desk and they will start creating your ticket, but they also monitor that. to make sure that it's been followed up adequately and that you get also the required feedback at the right point in time. From there, we go to the first line support. It's multilingual engineers, and they work as part of this follow the sun model, as we just briefly discussed, and they really immediately begin resolving critical, especially critical issues, really within minutes of creating the ticket. They're, I would say, almost waiting for that. Yeah, they're eager to help because that is obviously what they work on a daily basis, right? Now, if there's going to be, let's say, a little bit more complex issue that for whatever reason, first line support engineers struggle with, or it takes maybe a little bit too long, we're quick to escalate that to a second line support. So senior engineers that are on standby 24/7 to assist with those, let's say, more complex issues, and even can go on site as well if the, for example, the remote connection is not available or dropped, or they have to be there because it's an interlocked system with the process. So that's the second line support. But even after that, let's say there's a third line support with real true application experts focused on, let's say, a certain area and very deep into that, and they work as part of the internal or sometimes external development teams there. And so that is from a structure standpoint, so really layered with quick escalations to the next level, to the next line of support. A service infrastructure, as I already mentioned, so there's different ways nowadays how the ATS service desk can be reached for major incident management. They obviously do the cybersecurity. If there's anything going on, there's a dedicated department within there that solely focus on cybersecurity. They do active monitoring so that they can detect if there's any anomalies as quick as possible. That's not just cybersecurity, that's also any other anomalies within the system. And that supports our preventative maintenance approach, in which we always strive to avoid any type of incidents to happen, as well as access management, also very important. Of course, to make sure ties into the cybersecurity that only the let's say authorized people have actually access to the system, and everyone else does not. Reaches by phone, reaches by email through your dedicated email address, or through our customer portal. Customer portal also contains a knowledge base, so there's already, let's say, interesting and handy information on there, and you can chat with us 24/7, just for a quick question, or if required, to start a ticket, really. And then from the service desk, as I mentioned, it goes into the 24/7 remote support, or and that's, I mean, you can imagine nowadays a lot is done remotely. It's really the majority of the support is able to do remotely, but there's also still lots of engineers on a daily basis that can go on site or that are on site and provide support there and then, if so required. From a support process standpoint, real quick, so we provide incident management, so that's right away the first countermeasures, right, when an issue occurs, making sure that service is restored as quick as possible and the systems are running. So yeah, maximize uptime. But then an incident might turn into a problem if it reoccurs. So we'll go down the path of root cause analysis to prevent that is going to the incident is going to happen again, and that might require change, like a type of a permanent change to the system for whatever reason, which needs to be properly managed, because think about it, the system is running in a production environment. If we do not properly manage those changes, then it's actually only going to cause more problems. So change management is one of the support processes, as well as asset management. So keeping detailed information on all components that are in scope of the service level agreement, and as well as how they're interlinked and correlated. Keeping that, so that's really the tracking of the assets. The preventative maintenance is obviously physical as well as automated monitoring of systems, and then we do manage service as well. So that's very structured reporting and review to ensure that this service is actually not stays at the same level, but is improved over time as well. Because you can imagine that once we start out, there is, let's say, an initial ramp-up time, there is knowledge transfer, but the longer that we work with your system, the more and more, let's say, insight we gain, the more knowledge and experience we get with the system. So we're always there to help improve, to, let's say, provide suggestions for improvement, and at the end of the day, to really support your continuous improvement teams that work for you, yeah, to help the business improve at the end of the day. Because again, digital transformation, if we talk about digital transformation, ultimately we talk about business transformation and business improvement. But that's not new. So we've got different services that we can offer. The one is on the left hand side, we talk about advanced support. So that will be on-site support, also sometimes referred to as smart hands. It's dedicated, pretty dedicated site-based engineers. We have several on staff for or larger, let's say, SLA customers, and they're almost like embedded into the client team. We manage all the upgrades. It's really important to stay up to date. And it could even be inclusive of development and configuration effort. It all depends on the agreement. Pretty standard in Orange. That's probably our most common offering, the 24/7 service level agreements, or SLA for short. So there you will have your guaranteed incident response time, as well as that resolution time that I talked about, which is over 98% across 15,000 tickets. So absolutely very high. The preventative maintenance is an option, can be included. Sometimes customers only need the incident management, but not necessarily preventative maintenance, because they already have their, and here we go again, their IT team monitoring, for example. So that could definitely work. It really depends on the needs and on the current organization and then governance, of course. I mean, having a monthly reporting on any, let's say, the number of tickets, resolution times, any trending that we can do, plus any suggestions that we can provide for continuous improvement as well. And then there is also another version, which is sometimes a little bit confusing. With their talk about the software maintenance agreement, or SMA, and it's oftentimes there is, let's say, a little bit confusion about what's the difference, right, between SLA and SMA. When we talk about this SMA, right, software maintenance agreement, then that is all about very much product focused. So an SMA provides access to the latest product versions, as well as documentation updates. Oftentimes there is support included during business hours, so between 8 and 5 local time. And then the client that is actually bought the software, right, and can use and uses it, they can also provide input into the product roadmap. So yeah, we would take on any, let's say, suggestions from our client side for improving the product, because at the end of the day, they're the end user. They use it every day, and we very much appreciate their feedback. But the difference with an SLA is that an SMA does not necessarily guarantee incident response and fix times. So that's one of the key differences there. So the SLA is really all about that ad hoc support when it's needed most, and an SMA is more or less, let's say, in the background, making sure that everything is smooth, up and running, latest version, etc. So we're getting towards the end of today's webinar. So let me go into a real quick example of how we change or approach from very reactive to a far more proactive. What we do is we use a third-party tool for that, Centrion, and that is being used for monitoring, and that will provide us with early on warnings instead of waiting for, let's say, customers to call us with an incident. We actually monitor that, right? And a Centrion tool that creates alerts or events, and those are immediately being picked up in real time by the support desk, by the ATS support desk. So in that way, we monitor your systems and solutions, and that also supports that preventative maintenance idea. And that can be done for anything, whether that's a web server for, say, the user interfaces, or the application server for the business logic, or a database server where all your data is being stored, making sure that that goes as it is expected, or even down into, let's say, the shop floor equipment through the OPC server that handles all the connections with the SCADA and the PLC and lower levels. So that's all being monitored. So very, let's say, active. So that makes it very proactive. It's very holistic visibility on complex IT workflows. So before we end for today, real quick, now what would be some of the business benefits, right, of a 24/7 support contract? Well, continuous uptime. That is one of the main things, right? Making sure that systems are running and that they are not the bottleneck of or a cause of any delay. You can't have that, right? Tools are great, but they have to support us. They cannot be the bottleneck. So one of the key things. Security, very important. Making sure that once you have invested in all these very nice, let's say, tools, and you went through this digitalization journey, we also have to make sure that all the data that we started gathering obviously doesn't end up in the wrong hands, that it is not intended to. Get the most out of your assets and investments. Again, is really making sure that they can run at maximum uptime. And once we have that, then you can be sure that yeah, your assets are not down, and you get really a very good, let's say, return on your investment there. We do that through providing accessibility as well as availability. So it's great that a system is available, but if it's not accessible, then it's still not worth much, because it all has to be integrated. Um, we also provide knowledge base, which is oftentimes a driver for process improvements. And then last but not least, the updates, as I spoke about just a minute ago. Staying updated is a great thing, and then it becomes important, because if this is being delayed, getting upgrades for too long, then at some point you're forced to make an upgrade, because some function is no longer supported, and that often results in a long process with a lot of testing, because we have to jump several different versions. So it's always recommended to stay updated, and through this type of support contracts, that's pretty much something that no longer needs to be worried about, because it happens automatically. So with that being said, I will end it here as far as my contributions go for today. I really appreciate everyone's attention for this short webinar around support services. And yeah, would like to open it up for questions if there are any.
All right, yes, we do have a couple of questions here. The first one is, what is the typical response time that you guarantee?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because we want to understand how quick, of course, you can get the help that you need, and obviously that you're paying for. So now, typical response times, it really depends. You can have that as part of your contract. You can basically decide about that yourself. So what we see often is, I think most common is, let's say, a response time of an hour. So within an hour of a ticket has been logged, somebody will need to respond from the service desk and accept the ticket and start working on it. But we definitely have customers among our customer base that have, or that require shorter response times, and that's absolutely possible. We talk about 20 or 30 minutes, things like that. So and that's one of the nice things of these support contracts, that yeah, they can be fully tailored to your needs, and then that way you get what you want, but you also don't take what you don't want, because that way you can also influence the ultimate cost of such a support contract. So yeah, I hope that pretty much answered the question. Not sure if there's anything else.
Okay, yes, there's one more question here. Would you support undocumented or potentially homegrown systems or solutions?
Huh. Yeah, I get that question every now and then when we talk with potential customers. Let me say that the initial answer is yes. We would do that. Not everything just right off the bat. There will be required an intensive, let's say, analysis phase. But yeah, to put it in a different way, it wouldn't be the first time that our support team is doing, let's say, reverse engineering on a certain, let's say, legacy system or an old homegrown system to understand what's really going on, and then from there, yeah, starting the support. So basically, the short answer is yes, and the long answer would be that, well, get ready for some in-depth analysis. But that's most of the time when we come across that type of situation, and that in-depth analysis is already long overdue. But often our customers simply don't have the bandwidth to do the time to do that. So yes, we can definitely help you with that. If that's something that you're interested in or you have something in mind, yeah, just basically contact me. Let me here put my contact details. So feel free to out to me directly. Either drop me an email or feel free to give me a call at your convenience. Yeah, to discuss that in more detail. So, all right. Anything else, Tom, for me today?
That's it. Thanks, Robert. So thank you
Absolutely.
to Robert. And if you do have any questions about support services, or you'd simply like to discuss any challenges you're facing, you can reach out to Robert at the details he's given there. So all that's left for me is to say thank you to everyone for attending and have a great day.